Hello everybody, and thanks for taking the time to join another one of my short videos where I'll be going over how we cluster our GoAnywhere Gateway. I am Scott Mesic, a solutions engineer with Fortra. I work with our file transfer platforms as well as our email security solutions and the content scanning engine that goes along with our file transfer platforms. So let's get right at it. I have summarized the main points that you want to consider when you're talking about front-ending your managed file transfer, secure file transfer solution. A lot of these concepts can really apply to any application that you're hosting, that you have external devices trying to get to internal resources. So we'll start with compliance. That's always a hot topic. So as you can see, this PCI DSS 1.3.7 gets into no data in the DMZ, no access to authentication sources, hiding of internal IP addresses. So you want to make sure that you can adhere to that. This device should be able to make your internal file transfer solutions highly available, load balance them. And so that's important. Otherwise, you'll need another device in between. Your DMZ or edge devices in your internal workflow or application servers, but then you would possibly move away from concept 5, which is the reverse proxy support. So the ability to shield your internal resources properly by having no inbound firewall rules from the outside world to your internal environment. And so if you implement a third-party proxy device or load balancer device in front of your gateway or your managed file transfer solution or any internal application, you can't get away from the fact that even if you're NATing, you can't get away from the fact that you still needed a firewall rule inbound from the outside world all the way to your internal network, even if it's the load balancer. With a proper gateway, the GoAnywhere Gateway, you just initiate a control channel or an outbound session from your internal workflow or your managed file transfer servers to the gateway in the DMZ. So that blocks that ability from the outside devices getting directly to your internal resources. Having the ability for a forward proxy is also beneficial. This way, your file transfer sessions can all be initiated from a single set of devices, easier to troubleshoot, and your clients will know what to look for. So forward and reverse proxying. The ability to see the real client IP address as opposed to an IP address range that's coming maybe from your load balancer. That's useful, and that may be helpful when troubleshooting or getting the ability to identify who's really connecting to your resource from a security standpoint or a logging standpoint. One administration console is always beneficial. Some file transfer gateways have multiple administration consoles. Using GoAnywhere, there's just one console where I'm going to review with you in a moment, where you can see that you can manage everything from. The ability to have your operating system of your choice. Basically, we're operating system agnostic. Your client shouldn't really, or your devices that are connecting shouldn't really know or care or need to know about a gateway that's in between them and your internal resources. Keeping the session together from beginning to end, no breaking of the encryption, breaking packets, reassembling packets, unencrypting, re-encrypting, keeping everything together. Ability to have content scanning support, so viruses and DLP. And then the gateways themselves are typically can't be load balanced natively. They don't have network load balancing built into them. So a traditional load balancer, this is where that's useful. This is where that comes in, so that if you have multiple gateways or maybe you're spanning multiple sites, you can have the ability to do protocol service availability checking, and you have like just your external load balancer that's spreading the load between your gateways. And so let's go ahead and get right at it. We'll start with the GoAnywhere System Architecture Guide, which is available in the GoAnywhere Customer Portal. You could see here, we'll talk about the GoAnywhere Gateway, externalizing the GoAnywhere Gateway. We talk about the forward and reverse proxying, load balancing of your MFT systems, as you can see here, or the ability to build multiple gateways, which is essentially what we're going to do in today's session. So all this information is laid out in our system architecture guide. You can go ahead and download that from our customer portal. Installing the gateway, we have a GoAnywhere user guide or installation guide. We talk about the system requirements here. I'm running on Windows, but as you can see here, as I mentioned, we're operating system agnostic. And then you have some Java requirements as well. So I've already installed 2 gateways and an MFT server. We'll go back up into the table of contents here and we'll look at the configuration of the gateway on Windows, installing and configuring. So we'll just navigate to that area. You could see here that we just downloaded the Windows installer. We signed in as an administrator. We launched the install wizard. We recorded the licensing information. We licensed it. Now we're going to move directly to our MFT user guide. All this information, by the way, is also available by just clicking the question mark in the top right-hand corner of your consolidated GoAnywhere administration console, wherever that happens to be installed. So now we move to the gateway configuration itself. As you can see here, we're just going into GoAnywhere under your services and then the gateway manager. We get here into installing and configuring our profiles. I'm going to just show you what I've done in my environment. Customizing is here, enabling encryption, the various service listeners. There's no limit to how many that you can have, anything that you've got configured. And so this is essentially what we're going to move to now. I'm going to demonstrate 2 profiles that I've created for 2 different gateways. So with that being said, let's go ahead and sign into my GoAnywhere administration console. And then we'll go into the services. We'll go to the gateway manager. As you can see here, I have 2 of them that I've connected. I've actually established these in the essence of time to keep this video short and sweet and concise. So I've got all this configured. I've created 3 listeners or profiles, as you can see here in HTTPS. This is my first gateway IP address, an SFTP. So this is for my SFTP connections. And then for the admin interface, all these are running. I've got my ports allocated and the services, it's all started and connected. And then here's the similar configuration for the second gateway. As you can see here, everything is up and running. So now I've went ahead and prepped all that with the licensing installation, so on and so forth. Here's my various devices. So what I'm going to start with, my IP addresses, host names, and everything along those lines. So I'm just going to open up my command prompt here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to launch a session to the MFT server itself. That's my SFTP session. You can see that that's listening. That would be for your internal clients. So I'm signed in here. Here is my external. So this would be for gateway node A. Obviously, if you had a front end, some form of a load balancing device, you wouldn't have to use an IP address. You could just use a host name, but I'm signed in here. And now my last connection will be to the second gateway node. As you can see here, I've signed in. And I've went ahead and connected to my MFT server and then my 2 gateways. So now, via SFTP, here's my management interface. As you can see, I've swapped from 136. Here's my interface from 137. That's gateway node 1. Here would be gateway node 2. That's 138. And now, as far as my web listeners for my clients are concerned, I'll go ahead and sign in. You can see here, here's my HTTPS web portal secure folders for my MFT server. That's internal clients. Here's the IP address for the gateway node 1. And then here's the IP address for the gateway node 2, as you can see, 138. So I've got my clustered gateway up and running. I've got my service profiles created, and that is pretty much everything that needs to be considered for the basics. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions about anything that was presented, don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager or our support team.